Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I am your host, Carolyn Orff, and today is November 30th, 2022. When it comes to our next guest business, she is very intentional about setting goals and measuring her progress. Here to share words of advice and encouragement, please welcome Wanda Thomas from the education team, who I know while she's been sitting here listening has been figuring out how to do a group on the scenic eclipse.
You know it.
Am I right or am I right? I know.
Look, I want to get submerged. I want to go into a submarine. It's like, ooh, this sounds pretty cool. I'm liking this.
I'm telling you, I love doing my pre-show research. Let me tell you, because I can get drawn into websites and details, and if I should have asked them about this, because I seem to remember in our pre-show call they actually talked about like maybe even identifying a new species.
Wow.
Under the water in the submarine. I'm going to follow up on that because I don't think I'm making that up. I think that actually did happen. But anyways, you are here today because you are very, very intentional about not only the things that you do within your business, but measuring your success and your progress. So let's talk about, you say the words, it's important to inspect what you expect. So what does this mean?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things about that statement, I mean, it's a statement that you hear on a regular basis within the business community. And really the definition, if you would, is simply that, number one, set goals, have a purpose, have a vision, have a mission of where you're trying to go. And the only way that you know you're getting there is if you're tracking and measuring that information. And so inspecting what you expect, you've set a goal, you know where you're trying to go. You've hopefully used, as we teach in Bootcamp 1, the SMART acronym, if you would. You've set specific goals. You've made sure they're measurable. You've tried to make sure they're attainable, that you haven't made them so big that it doesn't make sense, etc. Also that it's realistic in that setting, thinking about your timetable, and I've got kids to take to school and I've got this to do and that to do. So, it makes sense as far as to how you set them and the size in which you set them at, and then that they're timely. So again, taking all those considerations of, those of us out there that are working another full-time job, because as we all know, travel, even if you say it's part-time, it's never part-time, it's a full-time gig. So
it is.
You're working two full-time jobs, basically. That time is a very important thing. And, one of the things that I've seen is that definitely for those that are trying to juggle and balance, I mean, we all have a work-life balance challenge, but trying to balance things, we feel sometimes defeated that, wow, I saw this person post that their sales this year have been XYZ. Oh my God, have I made 2 bookings? I guess I'm not doing anything. Or somebody made Pinnacle and you're like, they already made Pinnacle? I know, I was in boot camp with them, or whatever the case may be. And we just get so defeated, and it takes an emotional toll. And the concept of inspecting what you expect is, if you take the time to start with, to sit down and set goals based on that SMART concept, you will always know if you are moving forward. It's not about being where everybody else is, because everybody else has different timetables, different things to do. Some of us have kids, like myself. I have none. I have a 4-legged son. That's it. Some of us can work, 24/7. Not everybody has that. But if you set those goals based on that SMART concept, then you're able to say, let me not get bogged down in what I'm seeing posted or the dollar amount or whatever the case may be. I'm able to now go back and say, okay, I set a goal that within the next 2 months, I'm going to increase my client base by 25 individuals, or I'm going to close 2 cruises or whatever. You make it very specific, make it specific to a time frame, so that when you get there, you're able to stop and go back and say, okay, I met that goal. It took me 2 months to get to here, but that was the goal I set. I knew it was realistic because of all the other things I had going on. And so here I am moving forward. I think we missed that piece. That success, of course, is different to everyone. But the main point of success, in my opinion, is, are you moving forward? And if you set those goals and are able to measure them, visualize them, etc., and see that I am making progress, you are being successful. It does not happen overnight. And I think that's one of the things that will drive us all crazy, is that we expect things to just boom, happen just like that.
Well, and I think everyone's goals look different too. You know, for some of it's not, for some agents, it's not necessarily about bookings. Do you know one of my goals? This is going to sound crazy to probably many of you. I like my business checking account to stay at the same dollar amount. I have a minimum that I like it to be at, and I don't like it to go below it. I'm great if it goes above it, but it has to stay at least there. And this is all I need. It's not a booking goal, but it keeps me in check financially to say, if I do that trip or if I spend that, I have to really weigh my options and determine, if I do it here, am I going to get that return on investment? Because I like to see that bank balance to be a certain number. So mine's not always a booking. It's a very specific financial number for me. Now, you love your tools. You are very big. So what are some of the tools that you really like to help to measure some of the things that we're doing within our business?
Absolutely. Well, I do a lot of Excel tracking, but one of the things, before I even go there, thinking about the tools that KHM provide us, the CRM itself is an excellent place to start, because if you don't know this, you can go into your CRM. If I remember correctly, I'm doing this from memory. You go into your CRM, you go up by your profile picture. You can go in, and I think there's a section that says business, if I'm remembering this correctly. Once you go in there, there's a section where you can actually, there's a little toggle that gives you the ability to do this. But you click that toggle, then what's going to happen is, on your dashboard on the right, which I use regularly, you will literally see how you are progressing to a goal. So if you start out, and I do that regularly every year, as well as modify throughout the year, but each year I go in at the beginning of the year, I sit down and I say, okay, number one, what were my trends? So as I can look back, now that I've been in business 7 years, I can look back and say, you know, August, as an example, typically, it's my birthday month. I'm not selling a whole bunch, doing a whole bunch in August, as an example. I'm doing me. So I know August is one of those months where not a lot's going to happen. So I know that's one of my trends. I also know my personal time that I love to travel is in the fall. I love to travel in September, October. Yeah. The kids are back in school, yada, yada, yada. That's my time. So again, my sales are typically not high in those particular months. So because I know that, I can now sit down and say, as I'm mapping out whatever my large goal is. So let's say, as an example, and no, you can't see my erase board behind me, but on my erase board behind me, I've got written $1 million. And that was my goal for this year. My stretch goal for this year was to get there. I've never gotten close to that. I've done pretty good this year, but never gotten close to that. But that was my stretch goal, so I could always see it behind me. But I took that and said, okay, if I'm going to get that $1 million, what is it going to take month over month over month to get there? Yep. And I literally broke that down based on those trends. Again, August, nothing's happening. October, September, I'm probably traveling. So that whole window, probably a wash. But I know that, you know, Thanksgiving, the Black Friday that we just went through is one of the biggest sales times. I know I'm going to really push then. I know the first of the year with Wave, I'm pushing, blah, 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 blah. Those things, knowing those trends, I'm able to break that $1 million down and say, okay, I do 10% of my business this time, 5% this time, so forth and so on, so that it all ultimately equals 100%. Okay. And then I plug that in. And so I can literally go back and say, okay, first, tomorrow's the first. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be going, okay, December's goal is this, you know? Yep. And if I've been short in some particular month, I can say, okay, plus this. If I'm over, then hey, that's gravy. I hope I'm going to do a lot better, you know, et cetera. But long story short, by using that tool in the CRM, you can literally visualize, for my visual learners, see how you're progressing. It also, in the background, one of the other things I love graphs. And one of the graphs at the bottom, I think, has a blue and a yellow bar graph, and it'll show you like last year, this month, this is what you did. And then it'll be on top of that, it'll show you what you did this year. So visually, if you can see that you succeeded and exceeded last year, you're moving forward.
Yes, yes. It's not just a fluke.
Exactly.
It's not just a fluke.
Correct. Yep. You can visually see that. But the other thing is you can take that and accumulate it. So as an example, you don't beat yourself up because you didn't meet a specific month. I like to think about quarters as well. So if I didn't do so well in January, I didn't meet the goal I set for January, but at the end of March, really the total for that 3-month period, January, February, March, I have exceeded it. I still am moving forward. I've done it well. And again, depending on how long you've been in business, you can look at that from a year-over-year standpoint, because you don't want to beat yourself up. I go back and I can see, as an example, when I started with KHM in 2017, if I remember correctly, it was a hobby. I mean, it wasn't really a business. It was a hobby. And I've been building it since then. I literally have spread out what my numbers have been throughout that period of time. So I can go back and say, okay, even though I might not have made this time, last year or 3 years ago, wow, I've done so much better than I was when I first started. So, the CRM is one tool, but definitely I also mentioned in there Excel spreadsheets. I have a wealth of Excel spreadsheets. I love calculators. So I've built all kinds of stuff that automatically calculates things so that I can see that. And like I said, I like graphs. So with my Excel workbooks, I've also created graphical components so that I can see that. So a lot of the tools are tools that I've created myself, that some others have gotten and used as well. But I love, like you said, tools and ways to kind of track it. I like visual. Visual is a big thing for me, is to be able to see the visual. And I've always said, because I'm a numbers head, numbers don't lie. I mean, numbers just don't lie.
Well, and I think it's a really good way. You talk about how this is how I am in August. I know because it's my birthday month, and I know in September, October, this is how it's going to be. I think seeing that on paper and in a graph form, me personally, because I'm visual, I like to be able to then say, okay, I really shouldn't travel over Thanksgiving personally, because that Friday is when I do the majority of my next year's sales. For some people, that might be the case. And okay, over Christmas, New Year's sales, that's when I do the majority for this part of the year. And so in all honesty, you can kind of start to tailor your travel schedule around when you're starting to see those big bumps and the declines. Because, for years, I have just kind of hidden on Black Friday because I don't want to deal with that. And then okay, Cyber Monday, perfect, I'll do that. But when you start to get those phone calls in, you do want to be available. And that graph's going to show you. That graph's going to show you when you are truly selling and putting yourself out there. So we do have to go, but I feel like we've got a whole nother show concept we could talk about this forever. But
I could.
It is almost 2023. So we wanted to put it in your mindset to really sit down and start thinking about what this looks like. If 2023 as a whole is too big, start with Q1. What does that look like for you? And what do you want to
start? That's the key. Just start.
And it can be an educational goal. It can be completing a training. It can be going to an event, or it can be truly sitting down and saying, I'm going to really dig deep into my numbers. So, well, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks, Jason and Ann, for being our guests as well. Wanda, thanks so much. And we'll see you soon. You guys have a great rest of your day.